The heart of a true mother. The choir sang today, the hand of the mother. All right? A mother's hand. What a fitting song for this message today, because it is very special, because we are celebrating our mothers as gifts, as the very persons whom God used for our existence today and always. There is this beautiful anonymous quotation or saying that says, life doesn't come with a manual, it comes with a mother. Di po ba? A mother is someone who teaches us how to walk through life. And long before we understood the world, ang ating mga nanay na ang una nating mga teachers. Our first prayer warriors, and often our first glimpse of unconditional love. Maaring mapapagod man sila ang kanilang mga kamay, and her words may sometimes go unnoticed, but her influence marks or leave marks on the heart that last a lifetime. Agree po ba tayo doon? In many ways, a mother becomes a living picture of care, compassion, and steadfast devotion. Lahat na yata ng mga descriptions na sabi ko na, no? Because really, mothers are God's gracious gifts to us all through every season of life. Whether ang inyong mga nanay ay buhay pa or kinuha na ni Lord na sa piling na, ay hindi natin sila makakalimutan. No? If you are seated with your mother, please take a look at them and give a smile, sincere love, and thank them from the bottom of our hearts. Si Solomon himself was raised by a loving mother, Bathsheba. To raise a king is no small task because it reflects the devoted labor and love of a mother. Although Bathsheba's story began in tragedy and sin. Naalala ba natin si Bathsheba? Tragedy and sin, ano? But God's grace redeemed her life. For many, her name may still echo a painful memory because she was involved in David's moment of sin. A sin for which David himself suffered greatly. Their first son died as part of God's judgment. Yet, God's grace redeemed her story. From Bathsheba came Solomon, and then ultimately the lineage to Jesus Christ. Hindi nga ba isang karangalan para sa isang ina ang makita niyang maayos ang pagpapalaki niya sa kanyang anak? Her son became one of the greatest kings in Israel. The father in which the greatest king, si David. And we can see this in the way Solomon honored her mother. In 1 King 2:19, it says, when Bathsheba went to King Solomon to speak to him for Adonijah, the king stood up to meet her, bowed down to her, and sat down on his throne. And he had a throne brought for the king's mother, and she sat down at his right hand. In honor po ni Solomon ang kanyang nanay na si Bathsheba. That was extraordinary honor in that ancient culture. Solomon, although already a king, he highly esteemed his mother still. Bathsheba probably kept a close and strong relationship with her son, and her influence remained even after he became a king. And when the Lord gave Solomon the kingdom to lead, God appeared to him in a dream. And in that dream, God said, ask for whatever you want me to give you. Solomon did not ask for revenge. He did not ask for riches. He did not ask for a long life. Instead, he humbly admitted that he was still young and inexperienced. At ito ang kanyang sinabi, "Now, Lord, my God, you have made your servant king in place of my father David, but I am only a little child and do not know how to carry out my duties." So seeing that the people he will be leading were too great, too many, Solomon asked God, ito ang kanyang hiningi, "So give your servant a discerning heart to govern your people and to distinguish between right and wrong." So that kind of desire usually reveals something that is already cultivated in the heart. So it is possible that Solomon's wise and humble response before God reflected not only God's grace, but also the influence of the people who raised him, especially Bathsheba. He was so refined that he even know what to ask God for. What a commendable heart for such a young king. And so the Lord was pleased that Solomon had asked for this. So God said to him, "Since you have asked for this and not for long life or wealth for yourself, nor have asked for the death of your enemies, but for discernment in administering justice, I will do what you have asked. I will give you a wise and discerning heart, so that there will never have been anyone like you, nor will there ever be." Wow. But the Lord did not stop there. We thought that was already the answer. But look at this next verse. "Moreover, I will give you what you have not asked for, both wealth and honor, so that in your lifetime you will have no equal among kings." Wow. Echoing here what Jesus said in Matthew, that all this will be given unto you if you search for my kingdom, if you seek my kingdom. Scripture clearly says that Solomon's wisdom ultimately came from God. Yet God often works through human instruments, including parents, mothers, in upbringing. So the account that we just read today, written just after Solomon's encounter with God in a dream. And it is a very powerful display of how God fulfilled Solomon's request for wisdom. The Bible describes these two women as prostitutes living in the same house. And they stood before the king, Solomon, each one claiming the living baby as her own. The account says that their children were born only 3 days apart. One of the women accidentally lay on her child during the night, suggesting an accident, suffocation, crushing while sleeping beside the baby. What a tragic event there, or disgrasya. In the ancient times, pareho lang din ngayon, much like today, in many homes, mothers commonly slept close to their infants, and without separate cribs or safeguards, this tragic accident could happen, right? Although the text does not focus on blaming the mother, but rather it sets the stage for the conflict, a difficult conflict that followed. We have heard and seen many dramas in the movies with stories about desperate exchanges, di po ba, of babies, and such tragedy is truly unimaginable for both mother or parents, for that matter, and children. To live a life only to later discover that they are not with their real families. But before such tragedy could continue any further, this painful situation became the very context in which God's instant display of wisdom to Solomon had been realized or seen here. If you're going to ask, how would you judge between two mothers, both claim the same living child? Surely one was the real mother, and the other was Surely not. But there was no eyewitness. And the difference between the birth of these two children was only 3 days. And it was very hard to identify the real mother based only on their physical condition after childbirth. Both women were still recovering, and there was no clear physical evidence to easily decide the case. Now the judgment could not depend on physical evidence alone. So the young king used another way to judge the case, an appeal to true motherly love. And that is why the king ordered in that verse, "Bring me a sword." So they brought a sword to the king. Then he gave this order, "Cut the living child in two and give half to the one and half to the other." In our time today, if we wanted to know who the real mother is, there is already this DNA test. Solomon did not have that kind of testing. But the truth is, he did not need to, because the test that he used was even better in revealing a genuine motherhood. Not just who give birth to the child, but the true essence of a mother. And this will bring us to our problem today. That not all motherhood is genuine. The king's command must have shocked everyone in the room during that time. Sa unang tingin mo, Solomon's solution sounded very harsh and very disturbing, but it was actually very brilliant and wise test designed to reveal the true heart of a mother. Since there was no clear physical evidence, now Solomon appealed to something deeper than outward proof. He appealed to the emotion. He appealed to the heart of a true mother. At dito lalabas ang tunay na pruweba na nais ipakita ni Solomon sa ating lahat, who truly was the mother of this living child. Let us now see how the other woman responded to this solution. Sabi niya, "Neither I nor you shall have him, so cut him in two." Though we cannot fully know a person's inner thoughts, no, we can still make an intelligent and reasonable assumption based on her response. First, she may have been driven by grief and desperation. Namatay ang baby niya eh. She could not bear the pain of being childless, while the other woman still had a living son, especially since they were living under the same house. Her sorrow may have turned into envy, leading her to take what was not her own or hers. Another reason could be the social and emotional benefits of motherhood. In that culture, having a child gave a woman some degree of dignity and security. This means survival in a patriarchal society, or a society that is led by men. Or could it simply just be a deeper issue of the heart, the selfish possession rather than sacrificial love? This mother, this false mother of that child attitude became, and it says, "If I cannot have him, neither shall you." Now this shows that her desire was not truly for the good of the child, but for herself alone. And I think that from this point, we can pause and really ask something about the kind of asking we sometimes bring before God. Because spiritually, this account warns us that it is possible to desire the blessings connected to something without truly loving or valuing it or caring for it the way God intends. Pwede pala yun. Minsan gusto natin ng isang bagay hindi dahil mahal natin ito, kundi dahil pandagdag ito sa ating value o para sa sariling satisfaction lamang. Spiritually, this is dangerous. And it can become possessiveness, wanting to own or keep something for personal satisfaction rather than out of genuine love and care. How could she allow a child to be cut in two when she was claiming that child was her own? This woman wanted the benefits of motherhood, but she lacked the true heart of a mother. Because motherhood is deeper than merely delivering a child. It is giving yourself for the child. Sometimes God uses swords or crises or troubles to reveal true motherhood or true parenthood for that matter. Many people can pretend to be loving parents, but in times of crisis, the true nature of the heart is revealed. In this case, instead of protecting the baby at all costs, kahit hindi mo pa talaga siya anak, you should have the heart. The false mother was willing to see the child destroyed if she could not have him for herself. This gives us a picture of sinful human nature. Spiritually, the false mother shows how sin can distort the human heart. Pain, envy, pride, and selfishness can push people toward cruelty and destruction if these are not surrendered to God. Paul warns us about distorted love in the last days. 2 Timothy chapter 3, 1-2. He says, mark this. There will be terrible times in the last days. People will be lovers of themselves. When self-love becomes greater than genuine love for others, the heart becomes distorted. Even animals naturally protect their young. A hen spreads its wings and attacks anyone who comes near her chicks. A dog becomes fierce when its puppies are threatened. Even wild animals instinctively risk themselves to protect their offspring. God placed that protective instinct even in creation itself. That is why the response of the false mother is so shocking. Wala man lang concern, compassion. Nanay din siya. Kahit hindi niya anak yon. And she knew it. There was not even a small semblance of true motherhood in her response. Instead of protecting the child, she was willing to let the baby die. Therefore, in the truest sense, hindi nga talaga siya ina. Doon pa lang halata na. Right? And in that very moment, King Solomon no longer needed physical evidence because the responses of the two women exposed the difference between selfish possession and genuine love. From this account, we will learn this important principle. True motherhood sacrifices selflessly. Not merely through personal claim, but really the show of sacrifice. In verse 26, the woman whose son was alive was deeply moved out of love for her son and said to the king, "Please, my lord, give her the living baby. Don't kill him." This account creates a sharp contrast between the two women. Unlike the false mother, the true mother showed compassion that overflowed in that sacrificial love. For what true and loving mother in her right mind would allow her child to be cut in two? Wala po. She would rather let go of her right and suffer loss than see him being harmed and being killed. So this reflects a deep compassion and selfless love found in true motherhood. The two women had equal reasons why a child was important to them. The account seems arranged by God in such a way that these two women were similar in many aspects. Both prostitute, both living in the same house, and both giving birth only days apart, would stand before the king in the same situation. Through these details, God clearly shows the difference between true motherhood and a mere claim of motherhood. And this is where King Solomon showed the wisdom that God had given him. He knew that a true mother does not only desire the privileges or benefits that come with having a child, but also has a deep and genuine connection to her baby. He understood that the real mother would rather give up the child temporarily rather than see him dead. That is why she cried out, "My Lord, give her the living child. I'd rather lose him than see him killed." On this Mother's Day, we honor the many sacrifices that our mothers willingly bear. A true mother is willing to let go of personal rights if it means preserving the life and well-being of her child. And how many mothers here are willing to skip meals, work multiple jobs, endure exhaustion for the sake of their children? Some mothers experience separation, betrayal, misunderstanding, even rebellion from their own children. Yet, real motherhood continues to pray, to guide, to correct, and love even when the relationship becomes painful. Some mothers stay awake through sleepless nights in hospitals. They sell possessions. They borrow money shamelessly, tirelessly care for their children during sicknesses. Others leave the country to work abroad to provide for their kids. The emotional pain of distance, the loneliness, and missing important moments becomes a sacrifice that they willingly endure out of love. You know, mothers often shine brightest not during times of convenience, no, but during times of crisis. When life becomes difficult, the true heart of a mother is revealed. So Solomon was not reckless when he asked for the sword. He knew exactly what he was doing here. He understood that to a true mother, nothing matters more than the life of her child. So the best way to discover the real mother was to see which woman would protect the child at all costs. But beyond this, Solomon's wisdom also gives us a picture of the kind of compassionate love that God would later use as an object lesson for his people, Israel. A mother's sacrificial love reflects the deep compassion and covenant love of God himself. That is why in Isaiah 49:15 it says, "Can a mother forget the baby at her breast and have no compassion on the child she has born?" Hindi ba? Hindi. "Though she may forget, I will not forget you, Israel." From a popular Tagalog song, malilimutan ba ng anak? Malilimutan ba ng ina ang anak na galing sa kanya? Hindi ba hindi? God uses this mother's love as a picture of deep compassion and faithful love. Meron nga bang inang nakakalimot sa anak? It is impossible. But even if such a thing could happen, God says that He will never forget His people. If we have imperfect mother, He is perfect. Because His relationship with His people is grounded in covenant love. In a similar way, the bond between a mother and a child is so deep and so personal because the child comes from her own flesh and blood. So when a child is in pain, in trouble, in misery, ramdam ito ng ina. Sila ang unang nasasaktan at umiiyak. God designed mothers to become source of earthly comfort for their children. In fact, God designed a mother's love to reflect the kind of compassion that He has for us. That is why in Isaiah 66:13, as a mother comfort her child, so will I comfort you. This is one of the clearest pictures of God displaying motherly love. God compares His comfort, His tenderness, and nearness to a mother embracing her hurting child. So when our mothers comfort us, it is honorable because they point us to God Himself. Di po ba? They reflect the kind of compassionate and caring heart that God has for all of us. Hindi ba kapag nakita natin ang ating mga nanay, when we see our mothers, may kakaibang comfort. There's this instinctive comfort that we can feel from the mothers. Kita pa lang natin sila, wala na. At peace na tayo. There is tenderness, there is peace, and there is that atmosphere of rest and comfort. Sabi pa ng aking kapatid, pag dumating si nanay, nakapahinga na ako. Today we pause to give our mothers that honor they deserve for who they are and for how God designed them for us, their children. Let us make them feel loved, valued, and appreciated. Not just today, but really every day. And this account is not only meant to teach us about motherhood, it also prepares us to understand the compassionate heart of God Himself. The response of the real mother gives us a beautiful picture of this sacrificial love that Jesus said in John 15. Greater love has no one than this, to lay down one's life for one's friends. Just like the real mother who cried out to spare the life of her son, God also acted to save sinners from the destruction. Her willingness to give up her own rights for the life of her child points us to that greater compassion and sacrificial love of our Heavenly Father. And because a mother's sacrificial love reflects the heart of God, this will lead us to our promise. God honors genuine motherly love. Was there any more evidence that the wise king needed to reveal the true mother in this difficult case? No, wala na. Tapos na ang kaso. Solomon had discerned who the real mother was. 27-28. Then the king gave his ruling. Give the living baby to the first woman. Do not kill him. She is his mother. When all Israel heard the verdict the king had given, they held the king in awe because they saw that he had wisdom from God to administer justice. That insight may more than be a courtroom intelligence. It reflects Solomon's personal experience with sacrificial mother love himself. He himself may have experienced the care, the guidance and protection of a mother who fought for him. Bathsheba. We go back, we start with Bathsheba, we end with Bathsheba here. Perhaps that is one reason why Proverbs 31 carries such a strong emphasis on mother's instruction and honor. Although, itong Proverbs 31 introduces the words as the saying of King Lemuel, many scholars believe that Lemuel may have been another name or symbolic title for Solomon. The chapter begins with a mother instructing her kingly son, warning him against drunkenness and immoral women. And it says, "Listen, my son. Listen, son of my womb. Listen, my son, the answer to my prayers. Do not spend your strength on women, your vigor on those who ruin kings. It is not for kings, Lemuel. It is not for kings to drink wine, not for rulers to crave beer, lest they drink and forget what has been decreed and deprive all the oppressed of their rights." These words give us a glimpse of a mother deeply concerned for the character, for the wisdom, and future of her son. And this gives us a beautiful picture of redemption. Di po ba? Bathsheba came from a painful and scandal-filled past, yet, by God's grace, her faithful nurturing of Solomon became a part of that restoration of her reputation. The mother, once remembered for failure, was also remembered as the woman who helped shape one of Israel's wisest kings. So Solomon's description of this kind of mother shows that she became a treasure to her husband as well. Proverbs 31:10, it says, "A wife of noble character who can find?" Coming from the words of the son, looking to her mother for the father, for the husband. She brings honor and respect to her family. Through her godly character, even her husband gains respect in the community. Verse 23, her husband is respected at the city gate where he takes his seat among the elders of the land. Dahil sa asawa, ang ganda ng picture ng husband. Dahil sa wife, na honored pati ang husband. And the children also honored her. Verse 28, her children arise and call her blessed. Her husband also, and he praises her. The phrase, arise and call her blessed, it paints a picture of children publicly honoring their mother with gratitude and respect. The children honor her, the husband honors her, but most importantly, God honors her. That is why in verse 30 it says, charm and is deceptive and beauty is fleeting, but a woman who fears the Lord is to be praised. For our practical application, let me share 3 things as our response to the word that we heard today. Number 1, we cherish our mothers. Pahalagahan po natin. We take time to value and appreciate our mothers today. Express your gratitude through words, time, attention, and simple acts of kindness. And let her know that she is treasured and deeply loved, because many mothers silently sacrifice so much without asking for recognition. Huwag po nating abusuhin ang ating mga nanay. Number 2, compassion. Malasakit. Show your compassion to your mother by understanding her sacrifices, her struggles, silent burdens. Hindi po mareklamo ang ating mga nanay. Intindihin natin sila. Silent yon, pero full of love yon. Listen to her, comfort her, pray for her, and respond with patience and gentleness. Sometimes the greatest gift that we can give our mothers is not material things. Although maganda rin yon. But love, understanding, and presence. Lastly, commit. Maglaan tayo. We commit to honoring your mothers, not only today, but continually through respect, obedience, care, love. Because genuine appreciation is shown not only in celebrations or greetings like this, but in faithful actions and consistent love, even after Mother's Day has passed. Hallelujah. And God bless all our mothers today. Let me call on Marie for the honoring of our mothers today.